So I welcome one and all for this Wednesday feast program. Thank you so much for spending this evening with us at ISKCON Boston. So this is the third day of the ongoing discussion on Damodar Lila. Before that, I would like to ask a quick question. How many of y'all are coming to the temple for the first time? This is your first visit to the temple? First visit, okay. How about you? All right. And how many of y'all are already chanting? At least one round? Or the reason I'm asking this is, again, I can place the level of the class accordingly. I don't want it to be a class which goes over the head. At the same time, it shouldn't be something that's on the surface. All right. So this month of Kartik, also called as Damodar Mas, is the most important month out of all the 12 months in the Vedic calendar. Any spiritual practice that you perform, any service that you perform, any reading of the Vedic literature, any hearing of the pastime of the glories of Sri Krishna, the chanting of the holy names, the visiting of the temples, any service, even if it is very small in nature, that is performed in the pleasure or for the pleasure of Sri Krishna and all the Vaishnavas, give unlimited results and fruits in this month. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna gives a guarantee in the Bhagavad Gita that even the slightest or the most insignificant, so to speak, service for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, that activity never goes a waste. Krishna is so grateful and he has such a lovely heart that every single activity performed for his pleasure by every single living entity in every single planet of every single universe in the whole of creation, Krishna notes and remembers. So especially in this month of Kartik, those who undertake more austerities and charity and more sadhana bhakti, what to speak of the result that they are already accumulating. People in this world are more interested in accumulating material bank balance, which finishes with time, or you finish with time, not able to enjoy it. But spiritual bank balance is unlimited and can never reduce. Any single activity for the pleasure of Sri Krishna and the Vaishnavas gets deposited in your spiritual bank balance, and that is for eternity. Nobody can steal that property. Therefore, there is no anxiety, and such a devotee is always peaceful. When you have something that you hold, which you hankered for, and which you fear of losing, and once you lose, you lament, such a thing always keeps you insecure. But if you collect that wealth, prema bhakti or uttama bhakti, pure devotion, that which can never be stolen, that is, which is always there in your name, credited in your name forever, such a devotee is always peaceful. He has nothing to lose and only every reason to gain. So in this month, when the curtains would open, you would see, we worship a very beautiful form of the Lord called as Damodar. As the scriptures describe, Udara means the belly and Dam means the rope. Because the Supreme Lord was bound by the ropes around his belly by his mother, he's called as Damodar. So let's quickly recap the story that we have discussed till now, and then in the 15 minutes that we have, let's try to move ahead. So till now, what we have discussed is that Mother Yashoda, Krishna's eternal loving mother, is receiving constant complaints about her son's notorious activities. Her son, who was known to be a liar in Mother Yashoda's definition, is also getting the reputation of being a serial thief, butter thief. And he used to go to different houses and steal pots and pots of butter, only because he wanted to reciprocate with the loving feelings and emotions of the Brajavasis, the residents of Vrindavan. Now, in an attempt to punish him and straighten and discipline him, she runs behind him faster than the mind, faster than the wind, in an attempt to not just run behind him and catch him, but to punish him by tying him around a wooden grinding mortar. And that's exactly the picture that we worship on the altar. His loving mother, Mother Yashoda, tying Sri Krishna or Damodar with rope around the wooden grinding mortar. So yesterday we discussed Mother Yashoda's exalted position of transcendental love that she possesses in her heart. And today we will discuss the fact of how she has caught Krishna, and now Krishna's emotions are described as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, and who is the ultimate absolute reality, who fears none, whom everything fears, he's been caught from behind by his loving mother. In the sense of opulence, that is never possible, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is omniscient, he is omnipresent, and he is omnipotent. Now, if he is omnipotent, what is the power potency that can conquer him? And if he is omniscient, how can he be caught and bound? And if he is omnipresent, how could he be bound, caught and bound? And if he is omniscient, why would he fear and why would he cry? The answer is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead would be God, but he is completely overpowered by the simple yet deep, profound love of his mother. His mother doesn't consider him and adore him as God, but simply runs behind him, considering him to be a helpless little child, a bluish-black, beautiful, sweet Gopal of Vrindavan. And she's running behind him to punish him with a whipping stick. And Gopal starts crying. He says, "Put the stick down, mother, please put the stick down. If you're trying to punish me because I broke the pots, I won't lie to you. I actually broke them. I was angry. I was angry with the whole situation. And I was the one. Please put the stick down." And our acharyas explain the wonderful conversation as they are running. Krishna is running and Mother Yashoda is chasing. So as Krishna is running and jumping and skipping different places, he's looking behind where his mother is so that he can speed accordingly. And then as he's running, Mother Yashoda tells Krishna, "You're a liar, you're a thief, and now you're running away? You don't have any shame?" So so Krishna responds by saying, "I am running in fear, O mother, please put the stick down." So Mother Yashoda says, "I won't put the stick down, O Krishna, because this whipping stick is only to punish you." So Krishna looks back and he says, "I promise I'll stop running, but you please put the stick down." And Mother Yashoda doesn't put the stick down and Krishna doesn't stop running. So he continues to run, but the love of Mother Yashoda condenses and intensifies so much that the Supreme Lord, who is faster than the fastest, becomes slower than the slowest, and he's caught from behind by that sweet, loving mother. Now she's holding Krishna next to the wooden grinding mortar, and she tells Krishna, "You sit on this wooden grinding mortar, and you break all the pots, and you feed it to the monkeys? Let me do something very favorable for you. Let me tie both of you all together." And she gets a rope from her house. She gets a rope to bind Krishna around this wooden grinding mortar. And unfortunately, that rope was 2 fingers short. It was a shorter rope. What did she do? She went home and she got a bigger rope, this big. And she tried tying the Supreme Lord, using a rope this big to tie around a waist this small. And the rope was 2 fingers too short. She was getting frustrated, and at the same time it's embarrassing, so she's trying to, her face is mixed with emotions of anger, fear that the son would just run away, and at the same time she's embarrassed. How is it possible that this bigger rope is not able to tie my Krishna? It's not something special with Krishna. It's something foolish that I am doing. Maybe I'm not able to even tie it. And the gopis are all giggling and smiling, and some are crying, "Don't tie him, don't tie him." And some are giggling, "You cannot catch Krishna. Even if you can catch him, you can bind him." And Mother Yashoda is giggling and trying to, get out of the situation. And then finally, she engages all of them. She says, okay, I don't know, due to some reasons I'm not able to do it. Why don't you all go to your respective houses and fetch longer, bigger ropes? So the gopis go, and they get ropes, and Mother Yashoda ties the ropes end to end, and now the rope is 10 times the size, the previous size, and the waist is still this big, and the rope which is put around the waist, circumambulating the wooden grinding motor, falls 2 fingers too short. How is this possible? Is it something wrong that they are doing? Is it their incapability? Krishna is simply trying to test. Who can catch Krishna? And even if you can catch Krishna, who can bind Krishna in their heart? Nobody. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, among millions and millions of jivas, few become human beings. Among millions and millions of human beings, few have the good fortune of hearing the transcendental message of Sri Krishna like all of us have here. Then among the few people who get this opportunity to hear about Krishna, very few take it seriously. I hope all of you take it seriously. Then among the people who take it seriously, very few start practicing seriously. And among the people who start practicing seriously, the rarest achieve Krishna. So the energies of the Supreme Lord start coming and standing in front of Krishna. Our Krishna is our master, you can't tie him. The person who ties the jivas in the cycle of repeated birth and death, the person who ties the jivas in the cycle of kala and karma, eternal time and fruitive activity, you trying to bind that personality? Krishna is present everywhere. He has no external, he has no internal, he has no exterior, he has no interior, he has no front, he has no rear, he has no inside, he has no outside, he has no top, he has no bottom, he has no right, no left, and that personality is being threatened to be bound by the love of Mother Yashoda. Impossible. It is impossible. Shukadeva Goswami says, this fortune is not possible. Forget about Indra and Chandra and Agni and Vayu and Varuna and Brahma and Shiva. Even the better half of the Supreme Lord, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, even she has never had the good fortune of binding the Supreme Lord. And his mother is attempting the impossible. And all the demigods are waiting in anticipation with flowers in their hands. What is going to happen? This has never occurred in history before. No one has even dreamt of this. And this lady is confident she will do it. And she's sweating. And Krishna's looking at his mother. Don't you know I'm the Supreme Lord? And the mother internally is thinking, I don't care you're the Supreme Lord. You're my child. Even if you're the Supreme Lord, it is my first duty to chastise you. When people came and told Mother Yashoda, do you know your son is God? Mother Yashoda said, he might be God, but for me, he's my son. This is the nature of love. True, unconditional, unmotivated, uninterrupted, selfless, transcendental devotional service. Never ever to be found in this world. Forget it. The mother's love that we find in this world, Prabhupada said, is the purest form available in this world. Everything else is based on lust. Prabhupada said the nature of love in the spiritual world, if you want to fathom, the closest example is the love that mother has for her newborn child. Selfless. You tell that mother that, do you know your son is going to be a terrorist in the future? I don't care what he becomes in the future, but now he's my child. If I don't feed him, he will die. If I don't take care of him, he will suffer. If I don't feed him, he will feel hungry. This was the love of Mother Yashoda. And when Krishna was convinced that Mother Yashoda is trying her best, the ropes met end to end. And that boundless, immortal, eternal, absolute truth was bound by material ropes. The two fingers that we were talking about, two fingers too short, two fingers too short. What do they represent? The Acharyas explain, one finger represents our one-pointed endeavor to bind Krishna. And the second finger represents Krishna's mercy towards us. Now in Mother Yashoda's case, the first finger, she was trying really hard. She was running. The flowers on her hair were falling down. She was sweating. She was attempting. She was not giving up. And when that finger was met, Krishna showered his causeless mercy, and both fingers met, and the ropes could bind Krishna. In fact, when Mother Yashoda was running, all the flowers were falling down, and our great acharyas, the self-realized souls in the past, they explain that the flowers on Mother Yashoda's hair were considering, wow, this is impossible. She's running to bind the Supreme Lord. We want to be part of her hair. We want to be part of her body. And the flowers stayed. While some flowers felt, what is she trying to do? She's trying to run and bind our eternal Supreme Lord. We don't want to be part of her body. And they started jumping. And the flowers started falling. Now that Supreme Lord was bound and he started crying. Rudantam muhu netram yugmam rijantam. His two eyes, which were anointed by the mascara, the black kajal, he was crying and his eyes were filled with desperate appeal. Don't bind me, mother. Please don't. I promise you I'll never again steal. And he was crying and at the same time rubbing his eyes, because of which the mascara, the kajal, was mixing with his tears, and because he was moving his hands all over his face, they were all over his cheeks, and they were mixing and camouflaging with his bluish-black complexion. And now that he was bound to this wooden grinding motor, Krishna had different plans. What was his plan? He started the wooden grinding motor, which was vertical, because Krishna was standing. Now Krishna started crawling, and that vertical, upside down wooden grinding motor fell horizontal. And it started rolling behind Shri Krishna. It is such a lovely pastime. Mother binding the Supreme Lord, and we are celebrating. According to deity worship, you invite the Supreme Lord to have a seat. Please sit. You want to keep him comfortable. And here is the point when he is made to stand, and we worship him in that posture for 30 days. You don't let him sit. We in fact capture, oh Krishna, you're punished. Nice picture. And we are going to worship this for 30 days every single year of our life. Love-filled pastime. Shukadeva Goswami describes, of all the pastimes of Shri Krishna, one of the most enchanting pastimes is Damodar Lila. Because it pulls the string of paternal love, parental love, in the hearts of the devotees. Krishna understands that we are so mesmerized and we are so attracted by the baby features in this world. If that's the case, if I become a baby, they'll be attracted to me. And all my part and parcel who are separated from me and who are moving in this quest of happiness in this world will turn their faces towards me and find eternal happiness. And that's the case. This pastime, baby pastime, is being chanted for eternity. This is not the first time we are hearing or speaking on this. But every single time you hear this or speak on this, there is some new aspect, some new flavor, some new taste, never tasted before. You read some other novel of this world, you exactly know where you're coming, what the conclusion is, you know which page has what. No extra flavor. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most ripened, juicy fruit on the tree of Vedic wisdom. Every time you taste, the more you taste, the more you want to taste, the more you want to taste, the more you taste, and this competition is endless. And he started crawling. And the wooden grinding motor started rolling behind him. And he looked at the two Arjuna trees, the Yamala Arjuna trees. There were two trees in his father's courtyard, Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. And Krishna looked at those trees and he remembered the history of those trees. Those trees in the previous kalpa were the sons of Kubera, who is the treasurer in heaven, in Indra's kingdom. And his two sons, Manigriva and Nalakuvera, were given entrance in Kailas, the abode of Lord Shiva. And because they got the association of Lord Shiva, and because they were sons of Kubera who was rich, and because they were so learned, and because they had exquisite features, and because they had all the opulences possible, the inevitable happened. They got proud. Pride is such a quality that materially speaking it is considered to be very strong. The more proud you are, the more powerful you are. It's considered to be a great asset in this world. In fact, people even justify. He's proud because he has substance. Yes? But the nature of pride is that it's like fire. This desire for recognition, this desire for appreciation, adoration, honor is such that the more you get it, the more your hunger increases for it. And the more you desire adoration, when you don't get it, you feel miserable. And if you get it, then your hunger increases even more. It's unending. It's unending. As the saying goes, the more proud you are, the harder you fall. Pride precedes a fall. Easy said than done. Manigriva and Nalakuvera, the two sons of Kubera, became proud. And they didn't even recognize when a great sage called Narada approached them. And because they were proud, that gave birth to all other qualities. They became mad. They were intoxicated. They didn't know the reality. Krodad bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama, smritir bramsho buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. Finished. Pride also is such a quality that the illusory energy or Maya, she puffs you up. Prabhupada uses this term, puffs you up. Prabhupada explains, being puffed up is the difference between what you think you are and what you are in reality. And invariably, all of us think more about ourselves than we actually are. And the test is, let us introspect. How do we feel when we are glorified in public? How do we feel when we are glorified in private? How do we feel when we are criticized in public? How do we feel when we are criticized in private? It's a very nice check. And we know how many ticks we have. Manigriva and Nalakuvera were proud, and Narada, the great sage, had his own inconceivable plans of purifying them. He said, because you all are proud and standing naked like this, to make you tolerant and to make you humble, I curse you to become trees. The nature of tree is that it's so tolerant. You cut the tree, it doesn't complain. In fact, it ends up giving shade and fruits even to the person who's cutting the tree. Therefore, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises, we have to learn to be as humble as a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. Only such a person can call Krishna helplessly. When we think we are very great, how can we call Krishna? Why would we call Krishna? Why would we perform bhakti? Because you're great. You can satisfy all your needs. You're not helpless. You're very smart. You're very great. But when we are actually humble and tolerant, we can see the reality. And then we call out Krishna helplessly. So these two personalities became trees. And now Krishna looked at those trees and mercifully moved his wooden grinding motor, which got stuck between those trees, and that inconceivably strong Sri Krishna pulled the wooden grinding motor, and these trees were uprooted, and these personalities were freed from their tree bodies. Of course, there is a long conversation that occurred between Devarishi Narada and these two personalities, and at the same time between these two personalities and Krishna. And that will be the concluding topic for tomorrow's discussion. This is a 4-day seminar on this whole pastime. Today is the end of the 3rd day, and tomorrow we'll conclude with the philosophical and the Leela pastimes, the aspects of this conversation, and what are the take-home points for us. So on that note, I would stop. If there are any questions or comments, we exactly have a minute. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful class. Actually, I want to know literally the omniscient, omnipresent, and
omnipotent.
Omnipotent. Yeah.
So omniscient means the Supreme Personality is all-knowing. There is nothing that he doesn't know. Omnipresent is the fact that he is present not just as the witness in everyone's heart, but he is present in every atom and every universe. And omnipotent means he is very powerful. He is the most powerful. So Krishna is present everywhere, omnipresent. He is omniscient, he knows everything, and he is omnipotent, that he is strongest. So that Supreme Personality, who is having everything in the superlative degree, was bound by the ropes of his mother's pure love. So that is why this pastime is so celebrated and is worth our constant remembrance. Shri Damodar Lila ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.